Okay, we move to the last presenter for this session. I would like to call Associate Professor Dr. Suhaida binti Ismail, and tajuk thesis Framework of Tagal System for Indigenous Sustainable Water Resource Management Towards Resilient Food Security in Malaysia. You have 20 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, just imagine the world where the water that we drink today, the clean water that we drink today, the so-called healthy clean water that we drink today, the food security of our communities are all being challenged by the problems in the world. It could be pollution, it could be anything. Just imagine. Okay? This is where it is very important for us to protect our mother nature, that is the river. Okay? I am Shuhaida Ismail, the Director of Research from the Maritime Institute of Malaysia, MIMA. We are a maritime policy research an agency under Ministry of Transport, and we do research recommendation to the Ministry of Transport. And I've heard that today our beloved Minister YB Anthony Lok was having some coughing problem during the Parliament, so hopefully he's fine. So based on that urgency, at MIMA we came up with this study, Framework of Tagal System for Indigenous Sustainable Water Resource Management, that is particularly for orang asli, towards resilient food security in Malaysia. For your information, Tagal is a very traditional way of how you can protect the river. It's particularly for a river which has been implemented 100 years ago. Okay? So this is a mutual research research agenda by a center under MIMA, which is currently led by me. This is funded by MOSTI and is expected to get the buy-in from JAQUA, which I will explain later in the next slide. Oh, sorry, I didn't get my, okay. So, problem statement, okay. I just have one question. Have any one of you have the experience of at least have the joy catching fish in a very pristine water, pristine river? Ada tak sesiapa tangkap ikan dalam air yang begitu bersih? Of course you have, right? But just imagine, suddenly this water is so polluted that no fish can even live in the river. This is what we are currently facing, especially by our orang asli, by our indigenous community, that we have been chosen them as our case study, specifically in the PMX area in mana kawasan PMX? Tambun. Okay, in Tambun there is one specific area where we do have this indigenous population. They live there, they are very much relying on the river, yet certain parts of the river are currently in polluted condition. Okay, so let's look into the problem statement. Apparently, by many studies, this is not only apparently in Malaysia, indigenous communities are usually classified as very poor, low income, B40 level, the lowest tier. It's the lowest tier, okay? And they are often classified as extremely poor. They rely heavily on forest resources, amongst all, first because they have very limited job opportunities. That's apparent because they lived in the river, they lived in the forest area, they lived in the suburb, and also due to lack of alternative income sources. This high reliance, especially on the forest resources, has led to the environmental disruption and eventually the unsustainable practices, including their agriculture and fishing. Okay? And they also, in addition to these problems, face the socio-economic disadvantages when we talk about marginalization, discrimination, especially against their women and girls. And climate change further disrupts their agricultural practices and increases the natural disasters. Amongst all, the latest is about the landslide. However, shockingly, only 47% of these orang asli, of these indigenous communities, have access to piped waters, clean piped waters. This is the fact. However, there is a hope. Where can we find the hope? The hope is through Tagal system. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan nak mempromosikan Tagal here. Okay, so what is Tagal system? It's as simple as has been presented here, portrayed here. It's been divided into 3 zones: zone kuning, zone merah, and zone hijau. Okay, the shortest river length should be at least 500 meters. It's been divided into 3 zones. The red zones where no fishing activities are approved, are allowed. Yellow zone is where the fishing activities can be done at certain time. For instance, we have the fishing competition during Hari Kebangsaan, for instance. Yeah? And finally, the green zone, where you can do fishing at any time. Okay? So what happened is that the regulation, when you regulate the river, even though it's as the shortest as 500 meters, this has been proven to increase the productivity of freshwater aquaculture sector in Sabah. Because why? Tagal is originated from Sabah, from Kadasan Dusun. Okay? So what happened? Due to this Tagal system, which has been implemented 100 years ago, 9.4% increment of this production can be seen in 2022, compared to reduction of 1.58% in terms of the productivity of deep sea marine catch. You can see how different in terms of the yield, in terms of the yield in the freshwater catch. And in fact, compared to other states in Malaysia, Sabah is the top aquaculture fish producers in 2022 at close to 320,000 metric tons. Left behind Perak. Perak need to catch by berapa fold tu? 4-fold. More than 4-fold to be at par with Sabah. Okay? Okay, so this is our research objectives, and we translated our research objectives for easy understanding into the conceptual framework. Our RO1, research objective 1, is apparently to investigate what is the current socio-economic lifestyle of our indigenous communities, especially when we talk about how resilient they are towards the food security. This is our first IV, okay? And we also selected 2 mediators. We have the positive mediators and also the negative mediators. The negative one is we'd like to examine what are the challenges that are faced by these orang asli when we talk about the resilient food security. And this, on the other hand, will be reflected by our RO3, that is to propose the strategies in solving the problems in RO2. Can you see the relationship between these? Okay. And finally, we come up with this is our eventual product, or sometimes in the research we call it as the eventual aim or output, to develop the framework of Tagal system for indigenous sustainable water resource management towards resilient food security in Malaysia as our DV. That is our expectation. However, that is not the expectation of MIMA. At the end of the day, what we would come out is with a policy paper to be presented to JAQUA. Okay? This is our research methodology as mentioned by the previous presenter. Sip sikit puan. Okay, sip sikit doctor. We are actually implementing the same. It's a mixed method. We carry out the literature review, where from the literature review, which we use as the input. Okay, the input, we do have 2 inputs. First is our theoretical framework with 33 factors under 6 constructs, which I will explain further in the next slides. However, when we arrange according to how many researchers have quoted the same terms of constructs, this is how it's being arranged from environment up to education and awareness. And on the other hand, our second input was actually the 6 null hypothesis. How does this null hypothesis being developed? As you can see, it's very much related to the first six constructs. The first input, environment is mapping here, social inclusion is mapping here, economic is mapping here, and so on and so forth, up until the education and awareness. Okay? So based on these 2 inputs, we use this to inject into our derivation of the questionnaire. Cepat je, laju je saya rasa masa berjalan. Okay, I need to be fast. Okay, and then we derive the questionnaire. We undergo the pilot study on 3 experts on policy development, amongst all from JAQUA, and then we ensure that the alpha Chromebook alpha is more than 0.7. Then we do the expert interview with the 7 indigenous representative, okay, Tok Batin, we call it Tok Batin, Ketua Kampung, JAQUA officers and NGO officers who has been working closely with this orang asli, following Dworkin, and it's very simple. We need to use the 5 Likert scale of agreement, and then we undertake the data analysis using the relative index, important index, and also the chi-square test for independence used for this null hypothesis to check our 95% agreement. Yeah, and then we do the data interpretation, framework development, and it's done. We need to highlight here, we only accept for the constructs and for the factors, we only accept those RII more than 2.61, okay, following the Pembentang 2010. Okay, next. Okay, this is our research findings. Remember, we do have 4 research objectives, so I'll be explaining based one by one. RO1, what are the socio-economic lifestyles? Amongst the activities, they're very much originated from the nature. As you can see here, okay, majority of these indigenous communities are very much involved in fishing, and some of them are agriculturists, followed by housewife, and then service workers. Okay, how about RO2? The challenges. Number 1 is marginalization and discrimination against women, barriers to manage their water and fisheries resources, very timeline with this project, lack of environmental awareness, and that's why they have been undertaking very unsustainable practices. And finally, climate change. And for RO3, what are the strategies to tackle the RO2 challenges? This is how it is being projected. Okay, it's further divided. As I said before, it's based on literature review, purely based on literature review, purely based on how many research have been saying, have been quoted the term. So as you can see here, the first is environment, followed by social culture, economy, technology, policy and governance, as well as education and awareness. Say you are a policy maker, which would be your priority when you want to develop a Tagal system policy for the orang asli? Anyone? Tagal is very much related to environment. That's why you can see here, number 1 priority is environment. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, this is the research findings of RO4 based on the RII. Remember, we only accept those with more than 2.61, which I put here as a threshold in red line. You can see here, environment, it's not much value being given by all the 7 respondents. Yeah, you can see, surprisingly, economy, it shows that these orang asli, they need money to ensure the successful implementation of Tagal system. It's not about environment. They do have the environment, they work closely with the nature. They only need money as number 1. Okay, as you can see here, economy, the RII is the highest at 4, followed by policy and governance. Why? We don't have any policy or any enactment or any guidelines for this Tagal implementation. Remember, Tagal is from Sabah. It's not from Peninsular Malaysia. Okay? And then number 3, education and awareness. Of course, they need this input. Many of them, sometimes they are just school leavers at Form 3 or sometimes at Standard 6. Okay, they don't even finish their high schools. So they need this education awareness. And then it's social culture, followed by technology. Unfortunately, the last one is environment. Okay? Okay, this is eventually the practical framework that we have arranged based on the level of RRI, the importance level of RRI. As you can see, number 1 is economy, last is environment. And this practical framework for easy implementation, for easy reference, is arranged based on the darker color from the right to the left, from the top to the bottom, to show the level of importance. I give you an example. Okay, here for economy, the most important is funding sources and financial mechanism. And the least important is the resource dependence. And as you can see here, for the policy and governance, they're really in need of the governance structure. This is where the government should play their roles. This is where MIMA play our roles to assist the orang asli. Okay, and then let's move on. Oh, very fast. I still have 5 minutes. Can I cover this a little bit more? Okay, let's look into the environment. Why it becomes the last one? I would like to again engage us with the first presenter just now. She was talking about the level, remember, the standard of the river from standard 1 until standard 5. One of the most important criteria for you to get the Tagal system to be successfully implementation is the river must be very crystal clear. That is fall under group 1 or group 2. So that is why you can see environment is not a problem for Tagal system, because for you to implement Tagal system, you must make sure that the water is clean enough. Okay, let's look into the significance of research, inshallah. Okay, through this study, we will develop the policies to preserve their rights, the orang asli rights, the customs, as well as their culture that will come together in this policy. And this is for us to kata orang kerajaan diangkat ke Department of Indigenous Development or JAKWA. Number 2, we try to underpin their culture. Malay, we do have their culture. Indian, they do have their culture. Chinese, they do have their culture. Why not orang asli? Okay, so while at the same time promoting sustainable water resource management, inshallah towards resilient food security. Number 3, we promote water conservation. At the same time, we try to tackle water scarcity and the climate change through the support of this resilient aquaculture. Number 4, we ensure the water quality. Of course, Tagal, when it's come in, you must make sure that your water is grade 1. Community involvement, including women. We don't want to see 100% of orang asli is just housewives. Ecological and economic viability, as well as the social well-being. And finally, it is also aligned with the UN SDG 6, clean water and sanitation, and 2, zero hunger. But this is beyond 2 and 6. We could go to SDG 14, below water, life below water, or even SDG 17, partnerships for goals. Yeah. So this is beyond. Okay? Here we just highlight the 2 most significant. Let's look into the implication of this study to the government policies. Number 1 is very much assist in the fulfillment of national policy on biological diversity 2022-2030. We do have another 6 years to go. Conserve biodiversity, promote sustainability, and blah blah blah. National Agro-Food 2021-2023, 2030. This is very much related to our food security. Enhance community-based. Tagal must involve the people, must involve the orang asli. Okay, 8, sustainable resource management and mitigate climate change through national policy of climate change. And finally, guide a green practices guideline for fisheries sector that will advocate for sustainable fishery management. But bear in mind, we need also to consider the Sabahan customary law. And in this case, the orang asli, the Semenanjung Malaysia orang asli customary law, and for Sabah they do have the exceptions because they have these inland fisheries and aquaculture enactment 2003. Okay, 1 minute lagi. Okay, and other relevant government policies whichever comes in, for instance from the TID, GPS, so on and so forth. Okay, so it's about the thank you slide. We still have 1 minute. I hope MIMA is not alone in this journey. Tagal, it sounds very alien, it sounds very odd. Tagal, pagal hey, no, it's Tagal. Okay, so I really hope that we are all in this journey promote the cleanliness of the river and at the same time advocate for the culture protection of our orang asli and our indigenous community, insyaAllah, towards the food security in Malaysia. With that, I thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shuhaida. We have 5 minutes for Q&A. Any question to Dr. Shuhaida?
I really hope I get a lot of questions.
Ada.
Thank you.
Sorry, terlalu banyak tanya. Dah terlari
Oh, it's okay.
Terima kasih Prof. Madia kerana pembentangan tadi. Okey. Saya kebetulannya pernah tinggal di Sabah untuk beberapa tahun. So biasanya saya faham yang Tagal ni adalah because society Kadazan Dusun tu memang dah turun-temurun, dia orang memang jaga dia orang punya sungai tu. Dia macam ada pantang larang dekat situ. Dan salah satu daripada yang dia kenakan sogit tu lah. Kalau langgar pantang larang tu
sogit denda.
Kena denda sogit tu kan. Dan diorang kebetulannya diorang ada mahkamah adat dan semua, yang mana kita tahu sedikit kelainan dengan di Semenanjung ni. Setengah orang asli kita berpindah randah, dan juga macam diorang memang duduk kat perkampungan tertentu yang memang tanah tu hanya boleh dibeli oleh mereka, orang lain tak boleh beli. So they have that, what do you call it, the impetus untuk menjaga sungai tu kan. So dari segi what do you call it, challenges untuk nak implement dekat kawasan tu, kita dah kena pastikan ada kawasan-kawasan tertentu yang boleh kita nak buat pilot project ke, yang memang perkampungan orang asli dia yang memang kekal di situ supaya dia punya.
Kita sudah pilih satu kawasan, boleh Google sekarang. Nama kawasan tu adalah Sungai Tonggang. Tonggang. Sungai Tonggang itu adalah kawasan being selected for this project, pilot project. Under the PMX, and saya jawab bahasa Melayu lah ya. Jadi projek ini dia adalah pilot project pertama di Semenanjung Malaysia, insyaAllah. Sekiranya ia menjadi, okay, kita akan replikasi. Kita tak panggil duplikasi ya. We need to differentiate between replicate and duplicate. We will replicate the Sabah Tagal system, because why? Sabah ni Tagal system dia telah di copyrightkan, telah dipatentkan dengan My IPO, which is against, it's linked to their customary law. Macam tadi Puan cakap, dia ada undang-undang adat mereka sendiri. Mereka tak panggil Tok Batin ya Puan, dia tak panggil Tok Batin, dia panggil Tok apa tak, saya pun tak tahu. Okay, and then Sabah Inland Fisheries and Enactment. Apakah bezanya ya? Apakah perbezaan di Sabah adalah, untuk pengetahuan semua, Sabah Tagal telah diadaptasikan di 628 kampung. Bayangkan, 628 kampung, which involves only 228 rivers. Maksudnya 228 river, sungai, dibahagikan kepada antara 500 meter hingga 5 kilometer untuk menyediakan satu sistem Tagal. Dan Alhamdulillah it works. Okay, when I discuss about it works, it's not only about the fish that they caught. Tidak ingat untuk Tagal system, this is beyond the presentation, because we do have another presentation next week to my IS. Okay, Tagal ni dia punya konsep adalah ikan itu bukan untuk dimakan. Dr. Shu, kalau tak makan untuk apa? Bukan ya. Ikan itu kalau kita makan sekali ngap habis. Betul? Sekali kita jual ngap habis. Ikan itu diternak untuk tujuan kita main-main dengan dia. Pernah tengok spa ikan? Spa ikan yang dia datang gigit Yang satu ikan kecil-kecil. Bayangkan ini ikan kelah yang datang dekat kita. Kita bermandi bersama ikan, ya, kita buat kita ada spa kalau kita pergi kita pergi salon tu, orang massage muka kita dengan jari, dengan mesin. No. What is actually massaging your face is the fish. Fish itulah yang akan makan kulit mati kita, yang akan membersihkan kulit kita dan sebagainya. This is what we call, the PMX call as aktiviti pelancongan bernilai tinggi. Aktiviti pelancongan bernilai tinggi. For those who wants to do research in PhD, please look into aktiviti pelancongan bernilai tinggi. It will very much help you to secure your project. That's all. Thank you. Saya harap saya menjawab.
Yeah, any other questions? We have 1 minute. So if there's no question, I just reflect your presentation. Doctor, you have very good presentation skill, very confident, and I really like your slides. You have very good information and it's very colorful.
Thank you. It's done by my researchers, by the way. Thank you to all my researchers.
And food security is a hot topic actually.
Yeah.
And
sorry,
you have very thorough research and you use a mixed method. And you said about policy paper, right?
Yeah.
Is it published or you already?
We do have the white paper. Okay, the white paper that we have angkat kepada JAQA, and it's about to get their approval. We will have meeting with them because, for your information, this is not with the JAQA HQ in Putrajaya. This is with JAQA Negeri Perak and Kedah. So it is still a long way to go to Parliament, but at least we do have the baby step to kickstart on that. Hopefully, doakan.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
So all the best for your future. And I think so we already reached to the end of this session, and I just want to thank all these 5 presenters, and you all share a lot of information. Today we learned about river, tree, OKU, value, and food security. I really appreciate your effort doing this research, and please keep on doing this high impact research, and please share your findings with the relevant parties so that your contribution will help to make better policy and nation building. So thank you very much, all the audience, and please scan your attendance and in the QR code. And tomorrow we will start our event at 8:45 with the Apple Taklimat. So thank you very much, you, and take care. Bye bye.